Hi YouTube friends, it is Amanda and I'm in my car again. I have traveled to a friend's house and I have just arrived. I'm sitting in the driveway and I'm going to record this video. This is going to be a 5-minute review of Shada with the 8th Doctor. Because I'm in my car, you can imagine that I am going to be reviewing an audio story from Big Finish, because when I'm in my car, that is when I listen to these stories. So I actually literally just finished this one. So I am going to put the last disc away and tell you about it. So Shada, if you watch a few of my previous videos, I've talked about it a little bit before, but Shada is one of those stories that just gets done and redone and played with and messed around with a lot. Part of that is because it was supposed to be a televised production that was written by Douglas Adams. It was meant to be a 6-part story that was in Tom Baker's run when he had Romana 2, played by Lalla Ward, as his companion. And what ended up happening was this was going to be this story at the end of a season, but they got to the end of the season, they recorded a handful of these stories and a little bit of the story, and then the production crew went on strike, and they were on strike long enough that the production team was just like, whatever, let's just scrap the story and just move on with the next season. So it never got finished, it never got televised, and in the end it just kind of got shelved. And so it's a story that just has had a lot of reiterations, and people have played around with it because there is footage that's floating around out there of Tom Baker, Lalla Ward, John Leeson as K9, you know, some of the others that were involved in the story. There is some production footage that exists out there, but it's not complete. And so people have made various attempts at creating a complete version of the story. One of the coolest things that had been done with the story, in my opinion, is that towards the end of the 8th Doctor's big run and Big Finish, right before really Russell T Davies picked up Doctor Who as a new Who series with Christopher Eccleston. So this was recorded right about 2003-ish. So New Who started in 2005. What was imagined for this story was an idea that the 8th Doctor would be the Doctor in the Shada story. I have always been really curious about this story and how they made that work. And when I listened to it, what I discovered, by the way, there will be spoilers in this review because I do spoilers. So if you don't care to hear the spoilers before you listen to the story, go listen to the story now and then come back and watch this. But basically, what they did was they had a little sort of introduction at the beginning of the story where they had the 8th Doctor come in and pick up Lalla Ward, like pick up Romana 2, but it's as if, so only probably classic Whovians will understand this, but they used the footage from Shada that was shot in the story The 5 Doctors. And when they had pulled the Doctors out of time, they had Tom Baker and Lalla Ward, they had them like in the canoe punting on the Thames or whatever you want to say it. And they pulled them out of time. So they used that footage there. So in this version of the story, that's the canon. That happened. And so they go in and they say, the 8th Doctor kind of picks her up and she says, they're talking about Professor Chronotis, which is this old kind of Time Lord that lives at Cambridge University. And the 8th Doctor has received some like psychic messages that he needs to go visit Professor Chronotis, just like in the story. And he picks up Lalla, Romana, too, and says, hey, we got to go visit Professor Chronotis. And she goes, we've tried to do that before. Remember, we were at Cambridge, we were punting on the Thames, we were blah, 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 and then we were taken out of time. And he says, yeah, but I'm still having these dreams, and I feel like we need to go back and revisit that story. So that's kind of how they handle that. I think that was smooth, the way that they did it. I think that was good. I'm going to show you the cast list here. You have Andrew Sachs, James Fox. Let me see if I can get my phone to focus on that. I got to get better video equipment, you guys. Susanna Harker, Sean Biggerstaff, Hannah Gordon, Melvin Hayes, Lalla Ward, and John Leeson. Okay, so I haven't had a chance yet to go and look at Sean Biggerstaff, but he plays Chris Parsons in this, which is sort of the young Cambridge student who gets sucked into the story. And his accent is delightful. It is Scottish, and it reminds me of, in Harry Potter, you have that guy who is, I'm going to blank on the name because I'm recording a video and I always blank on names when I'm recording videos, but the one who's the Quidditch captain in like the first 2-3 stories. Anyway, he says, oh, you can't cancel Quidditch, like that guy. Sounds exactly like that guy. So I don't know if it's the same actor, but they have the same voice and the same accent if it is. So anyway, he was really fun to listen to. I also really like listening to Paul McGann and Lalla Ward, obviously, but it was really a good story. I still think that my favorite version of this story is the audio like the audible version of the novelization of Douglas Adams, like full novel of Shada. It's long. I know I keep saying that, but like it's like 16 hours long. It's really long. I mean, might not be quite 16, might be less than that, but in my mind, that's how long it is. It is a really long book, and Lalla Ward narrates it. And I like that version because you get all the little details and nuances in between all of the action sequences. Okay, as a summary of the story, Professor Chronotis is a Time Lord who lives in, he lives at Cambridge University. Basically, he has posed as a human teaching there, like a professor teaching there, and he's taught there for hundreds of years. And he has a TARDIS that is sort of in his office and sits in the corner of his office. And so I don't know if it's the doctor's TARDIS. I guess it probably is because it's a blue police box. So I think it's there because the doctor's visiting or something. But anyway, the Professor Chronotis is making tea at the beginning of the story. Chris Parsons, the student at the university, comes to visit and ends up asking if he can borrow a book from the professor. And the professor's busy making tea, and he's sort of like a nutty professor kind of personality. So he's like, oh, whatever, you know. So Chris ends up borrowing the wrong book, and this book ends up being the Worshipful and something ancient law of Gallifrey. And it's a Gallifreyan book, and it's all written in Gallifreyan, and so he doesn't understand it, but he takes it back to his place, and he has a girlfriend who is also a student at the university, and her name is Claire Keatley, and between him and Claire, they sort of test the book. They run it through the various instruments in the chemistry lab, and they discover that this is an alien book. And meanwhile, end scene, meanwhile, in another area of the universe, there's a planet called Shada, and Shada is a prison planet, and on this prison planet, they basically have this Time Lord who is imprisoned named Salyavon, and Salyavon had a very special gift to be able to walk into people's minds, and he was brilliant. And then there's another kind of a bad guy named Skagra who has this evil plan to collect the minds of all of these like really brilliant people, and then at some point make everybody in the universe kind of be the same mind, and it will be him and his mind. So it's really complex. I'm not doing the story or the plot justice, but if you listen to it, Douglas Adams does a way better job than I could ever do. So, but that's kind of the essence of it. So the book ends up being a key to this prison planet, and the key to getting Salyavon, or getting to Salyavon in his mind. So Skagra is after the book. The Doctor and Romana end up in the office of Professor Chronotis, but only after Chris Parsons has taken the book out. So they all figure out about the same time that the book is missing, and that's really a bad thing. And so they're trying to find the book, and anyway, they all end up in grave danger. K9 ends up having the adventure with them. They end up on the prison planet, and it's a very cool little romp with a few twists here and there. So I actually really super enjoyed this recording of it. It's 138 minutes. Oh, this one says it was recorded in 2003. Oh, did I say that? Or did I say 06? No, I said 03. Okay. So, Shada was written by Douglas Adams in 1979. Incidentally, that was the year I was born. So, very cool. I think I've showed you this CD case before in an unboxing, but that's sort of an artist depiction of the little guys that live with Skagra, the bad guy. He has created these monsters to help him fill out his wishes. And here's a picture of that book, The Worshipful and Ancient Law of Gallifrey. It's a very cool little book. I'm sorry my phone's not focusing on it. Maybe if I do it this way. No, not so much. Okay. Well, anyway, so long story short, now it really, woo, that's me washed out. Long story short, I loved this story. This is not perhaps my favorite version of the story, but it is my favorite. It's my favorite, maybe played out version of the story. My favorite is the full-length audiobook, but as far as the shortened like script version, this is probably my favorite of those. I do like the Eighth Doctor too, so that's fun. All right, so that's it. The next time that I record a video, it will probably be a review of the newest like second Doctor story called The Web of Fear that they animated the 3rd episode for. We are in the process of watching that now, so we'll be watching for something in the next few days on a review of that DVD. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye-bye.